The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Today, 8 members of our congregation will answer that question. What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? These speakers come from different decades of life to share with the rest of us their hopes and dreams. We will start with the youngest. In his first decade, Dax Wade.
Hi, my name is Dax, and I want to be a pilot.
In his second decade, Evan Tibisar.
Hello, everybody. My name is Evan Tibisar, and this is what I want to do with my life. I've always been a very driven person, and I don't like to give up easily. I love partying and free time, but I work as hard as I can, and I won't let anything get in my way. I like playing baseball, working out, playing piano, and doing all my schoolwork. In the future, I want a job that will support not only me and my family, but be fun as well. Both my parents work in the medical field, and I plan to pursue a passion in that as well. For a long time, I want to keep working out because I not only want to better myself physically, but also learn emotional and mental lessons as well. I want to keep playing piano for a long time because I found a true talent and passion, and I love playing for other people. I want to play baseball for a long time because some of my first memories are from playing t-ball in my backyard to hitting walk-offs and travel ball. I want to keep studying and getting good grades in school because I've always wanted to get a good job, and I want to support myself. But most importantly, I want to continue being myself for a long time. The funny, hardworking, stupid, and smart self that I am. My goal of life is to leave an impact that will outlast the time that I spend on this earth. I want to make a change in someone else's life other than my own. I want to contribute to a global cause and solve issues around the world. I want children that will honor my name and be role models for other people and generations to come. My timeline is adapting and I'm changing every day, but I have big dreams for what I want to do with my life, and I just wanted to share that with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. In her third decade, Antonyari Mariti.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Antonyari Mariti. On Tuesday, I turned 25, so I'm representing the 20 to 30 range. Okay, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? What a question. I feel like as I get farther into my 20s, the ability to answer that question is actually getting more difficult. And maybe that's not surprising to you, but for most of my life, and I'll preface this by saying I'm very privileged to be able to say this. I've had a plan and I've stuck to it, at least when it comes to my career. Since I started middle school, I wanted to teach middle school. And I remember spending most of band class not focusing on whatever piece we were learning, but paying attention to the teacher and thinking, how could I do that? Or what would I do in her position? And then after that, in high school, I practiced my instrument for hours and hours. Sometimes I didn't have lunch, or as soon as I came home from school, I'd be practicing because I wanted to get into music school. I wanted to get a scholarship for that. And through that hard work, I was able to go to Butler University, and that's a big part of why I am here now. When I got to Butler, every day, almost every day, of especially my first year in college, I had calculated out exactly what I would do every hour from the minute I woke up way before my roommates to when I got out of class. And a lot of that was practicing. And that was because I knew I needed to study and practice to be where I am, which is a middle school orchestra teacher. And I just make music and hang out with 12-year-olds every day. And it's been my dream. It still is my dream. And I'm incredibly grateful I'm able to say that. However, my one wild and precious life is not just about being a music teacher, and that's what's making it more difficult to know what I want to do. I'm finding now that I can do and be a lot of things in this precious life. And while I feel like I knew what those things were going to be for so long, I know now it's okay to not know. I'm becoming okay with not always having a plan and welcoming surprises into my precious life. Surprises like training for and completing a half marathon after never having been an athlete in my life, or going on a blind double date with some Mormon friends and then meeting the current love of my life. In my one wild and precious life, I hope to remain physically and mentally active. I hope that all my experiences can culminate into wisdom that I can better use to serve others and feel more at peace with myself. I hope to show my friends and family how much they mean to me and how grateful I am for them, how nothing I do and am would be possible without them and the sacrifices that they have made for me and make for me. All of this is to say that in my one wild and precious life, I look forward to how I'll grow, create, learn, and love myself and others in ways that I can't quite plan for. Thank you.
Okay, in her fourth decade, Tina Turner.
And I'm short. Short and clumsy. It's a great combination. So, hi, my name is Christina Turner. Most everybody knows me as Tina Turner. I am a lifelong UU. I will say this, I will probably tear up during this. My family, sorry, as I'm talking, my family went to the First Unitarian Universalist congregation in Ann Arbor every week. It was what most people would consider a mega church of the UU world, with roughly, this is guessing, 900 members, and we had 3 Sunday services. It was huge. However, my parents were both very active in the church. We were there every single Sunday, and I only sometimes wanted to be there. In my 20s, I stopped going to church because my life choices just didn't quite align with the UU principles. I needed to learn some really hard life lessons and mature a bit before I was ready to go back to church. 3 years ago, we moved here to Carmel so that my husband can pursue his pharmacy degree at Butler University, and actually all my immediate family, my parents and both my sister's families, both moved down here from Ann Arbor. About 2 years ago, I met Amy, and we connected through social media, and it was then that I decided to step out of my comfort zone and accept her offer to come to the Heartland Unitarian Universalist Church. This is where I'm going to cry. The moment that I stepped through those doors, this place was home, and that was new for me, for a church. Those 7 principles back there on that wall, I stared and stared, And after they caught my attention, I read every single one of those principles slowly over the next 10 minutes. The time that I read those principles, every single time, the comfort and the feeling of home grew stronger. And I feel like that's what this church is, it's home. And then it finally sunk in after I read those over and over and over again. Oh my God, I really am a Unitarian Universalist. And holy crap, what now? My mom was right. So as I walked out of the building that day with more understanding about myself and who I was than all those years of counseling that I had had over the years, it was a really good feeling. So the question of the day is, what will I do with this one wild and precious life? Well, I'm going to live by those 7 principles back there. If you ask my son, who's 5.5 in the nursery, he will tell you that we talk a lot about fighting our fears and breaking down the walls that divide us. I lived my first 32 years of my life being scared of everything around me. I was scared of heights, large crowds, bodies of water, the dark, which I still am, ceiling fans, it's the story, speaking in public, and honestly, I was just scared about speaking and being judged. All of these fears controlled my life, and walking out of the church that first time, I decided I was no longer going to live my life in fear. Instead, I'm going to live my life by fighting those fears every single day and showing my son to break down the walls. It is time that we all fight our fears and break down the walls that divide us so we have a sense of that community and home. If we can fight our fears together, maybe we can get to the point where we can all live our lives free of fear and of rejection. The 7 principles are a guide to help us break down the walls that divide us. It is time that we all break down the divides of race, religion, gender, you name it. However, we can still acknowledge why something makes us scared, and then we reach out to the community around us to get help. I am not scared to do this anymore. I want my son to be able to acknowledge his fears and know how to break them down. I want him to know how to support a friend through their fear process. Our 7 principles guide us to love each other and everything around us. It is time that we love ourselves, and we love each other, and we love our community. I will live this precious life as a Unitarian Universalist. Thank you.
And, in his 5th decade, Rich Elledge.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rich. I get to represent the 40s decade. The 40s are commonly known as the decade of midlife crises. Obviously, that's not to say that crises aren't encountered in other decades. It's just that during this particular stage of life, crises that may have been lurking well beneath the surface, out of sight as they were, find a way of not just bubbling up and making themselves known, but of completely taking over and even destroying one's otherwise well-crafted life. But before we dive too deep into the 40s, let's turn back the clock just a bit. At the ripe old age of 10, with both complete confidence and utter seriousness, I made a $1,000 bet with my best friend at the time, Stephen Stanley, that by the time I turned 40, I would be president of these United States of America. I had no doubt this was the easiest $1,000 I would ever make. And frankly, I was a little aghast that my otherwise sensible friend Stephen would be so careless with his future funds. But by my mid-teens, my measly ambition of becoming ruler of the free world had matured into a godlier aim of saving lost souls from the flames of hell itself. Never mind that I'd forfeit the all but guaranteed $1,000 bet of my youth. This was what Jesus wanted, so I was all in. But when my 20s rolled around, all of this started to take a bit of a turn. My 20s were, by and large, a period of disillusionment. I had married my first wife at 22, and we were struggling to figure out important questions, like where should we live? How should we find gainful employment? What sort of life will make us happy? I was quickly learning the painful lesson that maybe life wouldn't just magically unfold in the most imaginable and fulfilling, rewarding way possible. But then in my 30s, salvation came. First, in the absolute truest form of salvation that I've ever known, I became a dad. I'd always known I wanted to have kids. I never knew how much I needed it, nor how wondrous being a dad would really be. It's simply the best. Then salvation came again, this time by way of Argentina. I'd leave all this disappointment that my 20s had hurled my way and flee for the land of the tango and scrumptious steaks. And unfortunately, in spite of giving it a valiant effort, Argentina wasn't able to deliver on its promises. So when I entered my 40s, I was the perfect candidate for a classic midlife flameout. It was inevitable, really. It was time for the house of cards to come down. And though I've at least made it through so far without a toupee or a shiny new sports car, I have managed to succeed in just about every other typical 40s way. Fortunately, there has been growth too, learnings, moments of self-acceptance, and even new starts, such as being here with all of you, heathens that you are. That's a joke. But best of all, fingers crossed, every now and then I get a glimmer of hope that one day I will come to understand all that I really want to do with this one precious life. Maybe someday I'll get out of my head, out of my own way, and really start living. Maybe I'll even finally be able to silence that vicious inner critic I do battle with on a daily basis, at least every now and then. But until then, I'll just keep surviving, and surviving's enough, even if I am $1,000 in the hole.
Okay, in his 6th decade, Tony Chavez.
Good morning. My name is Tony Chavez, as Chris said, and I'm representing the 50-year-olds. So some of you may not know, but 50, at the age of 50, you start thinking of what is going to be your legacy, excuse me. You know, what are you going to leave behind? What's going to be important? So based on that, I would like to start by giving some advice to the younger groups. To the under 20-year-olds, my advice is to take as many math classes as possible while in school. Why, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. I found that my own math preparation was lacking as a young adult. So I took more math classes after college. What I discovered is that math is truly the international language to communicate concepts of life, living, and exploration. You will always fall back on math to help you with everyday tasks and understanding the world around you. Math will provide the framework to solve problems and help you develop a disciplined approach to solve complicated situations. To the 20 and 30-something ages, I would learn how to compartmentalize your failures. By the time you get to my age, you will experience many successes and also some failures. I can still vividly remember one of my work failures. I failed to communicate a message about an important task to coworkers in my organization. As a result of my failure, a member of my team was put in harm's way. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but the potential was there. I could have let this failure paralyze me for the rest of my life, but I took this event and learned from it, and then I compartmentalized the negative aspect of that experience. Compartmentalizing failure will help you reduce stress, allow you to focus on one topic at a time, prevent you from being overwhelmed by an experience in the past so it doesn't affect your future. Now, to the 50 and over crowd. How do you plan on giving back to your community? As a child, my parents were always telling us kids, we need to give back. You need to give back to the family. So I've extended that to, well, what is my family? My family is my community. So I will say that when I was younger, I would see all those retired people enjoying leisurely activities and thought, how selfish to focus on just improving yourself. I suspect my thinking came from both a hint of jealousy and my notion that people should be giving back to their community. I remember how I spent the vast majority of my adult life coaching baseball, soccer, wrestling, and my career as a nurse and an Army officer. But now as I approach my retirement, I have a better understanding on why retirees choose to improve themselves. I recommend that you take your improved self and apply those improvements to giving back to your community. So I plan to fill my one wild and precious life with self-improvement and giving back to the community as a volunteer, a mentor, picking weeds at the garden, or picking weeds at the public garden. Just do something to give back to your community, because it's not always about you. And thank you for your time.
In her 7th decade, Kathy Meglin.
Hi, I'm Kathy Meglin, and as of next month, I will qualify for Medicare. Woohoo! I don't know when or why, but somewhere along the line, I picked up this idea that I had to do something stupendous to be worthy or loved. At first, I wanted to be a famous actress. Unfortunately, my only acting talent was a loud voice. Then I decided to be a TV reporter. I was going to be Jane Pauley's replacement on the Today Show. No sweat. But after concluding I didn't have what it took to succeed in TV news, I became a print journalist. And of course, I was going to win a Pulitzer Prize. Meanwhile, the one thing I definitely knew I did not want to be was a mom. I never had any experience with child rearing until some of my high school friends got pregnant. And raising a child at that age looked about as fun as handcuffing yourself to a 1,000-pound screech owl. I also had a mother who was a wonderful woman, but her attitude about mothering would have made a good commercial for birth control. So being a successful career woman was my primary goal in life. As much as I enjoyed the high stress and low pay of being a journalist, I was never entirely happy with that path. I read What Color Is Your Parachute and decided I had to become an Oscar-winning screenwriter. But after about 5 seconds on an LA freeway, becoming a novelist seemed like that would be more my speed. A Pulitzer-winning novelist, of course. My creative writing journey eventually led me to get an MFA so I could teach other people how soul-crushing and unprofitable creative writing actually is. After a brief flirtation with sitcom writing and building a shelf for all of my forthcoming Emmy Awards, COVID hit. My marriage imploded, and I returned to the workaday life of an editor at a marketing firm that served addiction treatment centers, which were filled with people who thought Pulitzers, Oscars, and Emmys were easy to win if you just had a diploma. Then my niece's marriage imploded when she was 7 weeks pregnant with her second child. She asked me, her surrogate mother, to step into a role I never imagined myself playing, helping her raise her 2 little girls. At first I balked. What about my wild and precious life? But serving others had long been an important part of my life, and she needed my help more than anyone ever had. I finally realized there were no awards for world's most cold-hearted aunt. Fast forward about a year and a half. Being there for my niece and great-nieces has been inspiring, exhausting, rewarding, challenging, and lots of fun. You can't earn a diploma in parenting because the curriculum would be so overwhelming, no one would ever enroll in that school. But the education I've gotten has been truly enlightening. I've learned that I don't have to do anything stupendous to feel worthy and loved. All I have to do is be there for the people I care about. And when I enter my niece's house and my precious great-nieces go wild with joy to see me, I feel stupendous. Thank you.
And in his 8th decade, John Bradley.
Good morning, I'm John. I was really honored to have been chosen to represent the decade of those of us aged 70 to 80. Technically, we are known as septuagenarians. I love that word. And to talk about my one wild and precious life. I suppose it's really natural at this point of life to reflect back on the many adventures of the past, as much as it is tempting to look forward to the future and make plans for experiences yet to come. The age of 70 has been a significant milepost in human lives for millennia. In the Bible, the quote is, "The days of our lives are 80 years and 10. Be 320s plus 10, 70. And it adds that if we're lucky, we might make it to 80. When I was born in 1949, the life expectancy for a male was 73.2 years. And I'm glad to say now that I've exceeded that. Just by contrast, people born this year, 2023, can expect to live until the age of 83.2. Going back to myself, the actuarial tables indicate that now, having attained the age I have, I can expect to be 85. But I'd like to live a lot longer than that. I really would like to live well beyond that into my 90s. I must say that I was taken a bit aback by the email that was giving instructions for the service today. The speakers were listed in order, the youngest down to the oldest. Of course, that put the oldest down at the bottom of the list. And I thought, geez, here we are, I'm at the bottom of the barrel, there's nowhere else to go, I'm just totally in the last position. But then the more I thought about it, it came to me that we septuagenarians, we're really the foundation of society. We're the firm basis on which everything else rests. For one example, in the world of government, our two most recent presidents, no matter what you think of them, have both been in their 70s, actually older than I am. In the entertainment world, the Rolling Stones are still rocking out in their ages. Although I did read the other day that Keith Richards is having some arthritis issues with his hand, which is affecting his guitar playing. And of course, in many other fields of endeavor, there are also people in their 70s and 80s doing extremely well. Our society seems to have very mixed feelings, however, about older members. We enjoy senior citizen discounts. We now have our Older Americans Month, which is May. On the other hand, it's unfortunately not uncommon to hear of seniors who have been taken advantage of financially. Elder abuse is a real issue across the nation. We older people are often the subjects of humor. If you look up humor in older people, you find jokes dealing with dentures, wrinkles, gray hair. I don't know why anybody has a problem with that. Forgetfulness, and even napping, and I think napping is wonderful. Ask Dorcia. On the other hand, if you Google senior citizen, you'll find over 1 billion results on the internet. So it's apparent that aging is a real topic of interest across society. All things considered, I've had a really great life. I grew up in a stable home. I had a good education. I was able to find a career of teaching that suited me and in which I had success. I must say that the high point of my life was meeting Dorcia in my mid-40s and embarking with her on a happy and successful marriage that seems to get stronger every year. I've been able to publish some writings in newspapers, magazines, and in book form, and I've enjoyed becoming a grandfather to 6 bright and enthusiastic kids. Looking forward in the years to come, I hope, first of all, to maintain my health and to continue in my contributions as a grandfather. Just the other day, our 8-year-old grandson wanted me to play football with him. And I think he was a little surprised that I couldn't get down into a three-point stance as easily as he did. So we ended up just throwing the ball back and forth. I have a lot of fond memories of my grandparents. I knew them all really well, and I think about them a lot. It's interesting to me to think that my grandparents were born in the 19th century, back in the 1870s and 1880s. And then my own grandchildren were born in the 21st century. So think of the gap, the range of people we have known in our lives. And even with some luck, our grandchildren are going to make it to the next century, the 22nd, if they live long enough. Other goals that I have, I'd like to learn more about our new community here in Indiana. Well, this morning I learned about the freeway closures and how to find one's way here. I'd also like to learn more about the traditions and the outlook of Unitarian Universalism, which I am new to. I want to keep learning more about history and culture in general, to travel new places and to broaden my horizons. I also want to develop friendships here in our new community, and I'd like to look for meaningful volunteer opportunities, just to echo what was said earlier. I need to become more comfortable in social situations. You may have noticed I'm not the most talkative person you've ever met, and that's something I need to work on. I'd like to enhance my relationships with our sons-in-law. Not that they're bad, but I'd think they could be better. I'd also like to make a technological invention that would be very useful. I'd like to make a hearing aid that would do three things. It would amplify sound, it would cut out all background noise, and then most importantly probably slow down the pace with which younger people speak. We had a waiter the other day who spoke so quickly we had no idea what he was talking about. So that would be my improvement. Finally, I want to continue to grow my marriage with Dorcia as we face the challenges and opportunities of the years to come with love for each other and for our union. So thank you.
So just a huge thanks to all the speakers today for sharing your outlook for your wild and precious life.